are going to be reading a book. We're going to be doing some whispered reading. I did ask on my Instagram and also on here what book you guys would like me to read, and overwhelmingly, like an overwhelming majority of you wanted to read my court-mandated anger management therapy notes. Unfortunately, they've not actually been released. They are classified as a matter of public safety, so I'm not going to be able to read those. I didn't actually think anyone would be interested in those, but I digress. Today we are going to be reading Aesop's illustrated Fables. Okay, and I'll show you some pretty pictures if I see them, and I can do some tracing. But mainly we're just going to be trying to whisper read as much as possible. Okay, so I want you to fully relax. I want you to get in a comfortable position, and I'd like you to stay with me while we read. Okay. So, if you're not familiar with Fables or Aesop's Fables, they are short stories that have some kind of moral teaching or something to learn from them. Sorry if you can hear my puppy. And they're intended to teach you something about yourself. So let me know if you do learn anything. I'm going to mostly be looking this way, but I'm going to try and make it more equal either side, but as you'll see, I'll need to wear my glasses, and the light reflects, so if you can give me a little bit of space to do that, that would be wonderful, but I'll try my best. Okay, right. These are illustrated. They have some really beautiful illustrations here. So, Aesop's Illustrated Fables, with illustrations by Walter Crane, Ernest Croisset, and Arthur Rackham. So the first, The Fox and the Stork. A fox one day invited a stork to dine with him, and, wishing to be amused at its expense, put the soup which he had for dinner in a large flat dish, so that while he himself could lap it up quite easily, the stork could only dip in the tip of his long bill. really, in comparison to a tiger and a lion, I think the camel has got a point here, so unfair for that. Very constructive feedback to be punished that way. The dog and the oyster. A dog used to eating eggs saw an oyster and, opening his mouth to its widest extent, swallowed it down with the utmost relish, supposing it to be an egg. Soon afterwards, suffering great pain in his stomach, he said, "I deserve all this torment for my folly in thinking that everything round must be an egg." They who act without sufficient thought will often fall into unsuspected danger. Yeah. A woman and the hen. A woman had a hen that laid an egg every day. The fowl was of superior breed, and the eggs were very fine and sold for a good price. The woman thought that by giving the hen twice as much food as she had been in the habit of giving, the bird might be brought to lay 2 eggs a day instead of 1. So the quantity of food was doubled. The hen thereupon grew very fat and stopped laying altogether. Figures are not always facts. Also, obesity can lead to infertility, I guess. The wolf and the lamb. A hungry wolf one day saw a lamb drinking at a stream below him and wished to find some excuse for eating her. "What do you mean by muddying the water I am going to drink?" he said fiercely to the lamb. "Pray forgive me," meekly answered the lamb. "I should be sorry in any way to displease you, but as the stream runs from you towards me, you will see that I am not to blame." "That's all very well," said the wolf, "but you know you spoke ill of me behind my back a year ago." "Nay, believe me," replied the lamb, "I was not then born. It must have been your brother then," growled the wolf. "It cannot have been, for I never had any," answered the lamb. "I know it was one of your lot," rejoined the wolf, "so make no more such idle excuses." He then seized the poor lamb, carried her off to the woods and ate her. The wicked always finds an excuse for wrongdoing. Ain't that the truth? Jupiter and the bee. A bee made Jupiter a present of a pot of honey, which was so kindly taken that the god bade her ask what she would, and that it should be granted her. The bee then desired that wherever she should set her sting, it might wound to the death. Jupiter was loath to leave mankind at the mercy of a spiteful little insect, and was annoyed at the ill nature of her wish. He therefore said that while for his promise's sake he would give her the power to harm, she must be careful now how she used her power, for where she planted her sting she would leave it, and with it lose her life. Evil brings evil in return. The wolf, the she-goat, and the kid. A she-goat, leaving her house one morning to look for food, told her kid to bolt the door mercy. No, said the weasel, no mercy to a mouse. But, said the bat, you can see from my wings that I am... Oh, bird. You can see from my wings that I am a bird. And she escaped that time as well. It is good to have two strings to one's bow. I think he's running out of things to teach, or I'm running out of space to learn. The dogs and the hides. Some dogs, famished with hunger, saw some cow hides steeping in a river. Not being able to reach them, they agreed to drink up the river, but it fell out that they burst themselves with drinking long before they reached the hides. Attempt not impossibilities. Saw some cow hides steeping in a river, not being able to reach them, they... Oh, I see. Okay. The wanton calf. A calf full of play and wantonness, seeing an ox at the plough, could not forbear insulting him. What a sorry old drudge you are, he said, to bear that heavy yoke upon your neck, and with a plough at your tail all day to go turning up the ground for a master. You are a wretched slave, and know no better, or you would not do it. See what a happy life I lead. I go just where I please, sometimes in the cool shade, sometimes in the warm sunshine, and whenever I like, I drink at the clear running brook. The ox, not at all moved by this address, went on quietly and calmly with his work, and in the evening, when unyoked and going to take his rest, he saw the calf being led off by the butcher. He pitied him, but could not help saying as he passed, "Now, friend, whose condition is better, yours or mine?" Youth and folly often live together. The fighting cocks. I think I've seen a video adaptation of this on what's that website? Pornhub, I think. Sorry, I'm just kidding. Two cocks fought for the sovereignty of the farmyard. One was severely beaten and ran and hid himself in a hole. The conqueror flew to the top of an outhouse, there clapped his wings and crowed out, "Victory!" Just then, an eagle made a swoop, seized him and carried him off. The other, seeing this from his hiding place, came out and, shaking off the recollection of his late disgrace, strutted about among his hens with all the dignity imaginable. Bear success with moderation. Indeed. The lion's share. The lion and several other beasts once agreed to live peaceably together in the forest, sharing equally all the spoils of hunting. One day, a fine fat stag fell into the snare set by the goat, who thereupon called the rest together. The lion divided the stag into 4 parts. Taking the best piece for himself, he said, "This is mine, of course, as I am the lion." Taking another portion, he added, "This too is mine by right, the right, if you must know, of the strongest." aside the third piece. That's for the most valiant, he said, and as for the remaining part, touch it if you dare. Might makes right. I don't think that's a good, I don't like that one. The ass, the ape and the mole. An ass and an ape were one day grumbling together over their grievances. My ears are so long that people laugh at me, said the ass. I wish I had horns like the ox. And I, said the ape, am really ashamed to turn my back upon anyone. Why should not I have a fine bushy tail as well as that saucy fellow the fox? Hold your tongues, both of you, said a mole that overheard them, and be thankful for what you have. The poor moles have no horns at all, no tail to speak of, and are nearly blind as well. We should never complain so long as there are others worse off than ourselves. I wholeheartedly disagree, and I also think that that was a smear campaign against the mole. Oh wow, I'm going to show you this illustration just quickly. It's a very beautiful illustration there. Very beautiful, very beautiful. That's alright, you can't see the glare. The lion and the tiger. The lion, the tiger and the fox. Sorry, another one just popped in. A lion and a tiger happened to come together over the dead body of a fawn that had been recently shot. A fierce battle ensued, and as each animal was in the prime of his age and strength, the combat was long and furious. At last they lay stretched on the ground, panting, bleeding, and exhausted, each unable to lift a paw against the other. An impudent fox coming by at the time stepped in and carried off before their eyes the prey on account of which they had both fought so savagely. Woe betide us, said the lion, that we should suffer so much to serve a fox. It often happens that one has the toil and another the profit. And that is the manifesto for the Conservative government. The cat and the mice. A certain house was much infested by mice. The owner brought home a cat, a famous mouser, who soon made such havoc among the little folk that those who were left stayed closely in the upper shelves. Then the cat grew hungry and thin, and driven to her wit's end, hung by her hind legs from a peg in the wall, and pretended to be dead, in order that the mice would no longer be afraid to come near her. An old mouse came to the edge of the shelf, and, seeing through the trick, cried out, "Aha, Mrs. Pussy, we should not come near you, even if your skin was stuffed with straw." I've heard that before. That's giving me, that's triggering me a little bit. Old birds are not to be caught with chaff. I don't know what chaff is. These illustrations are slightly different now. They're a little bit more old-timey, a little bit more Victorian, I think. They come from that sort of era. But they're very beautiful. You can see the detail is very well done. Whereas the illustrations beforehand were much more colourful. forced to set forth in search of other water. As they went along, they chanced to find a deep well full of cool water. "Let us jump in here," cried one of the frogs. "Wait a bit," said the other. "If that should dry up, how could we get out again?" Easier in than out. I've also heard that before. I'm sorry, I'm horrific. Wow, that's really beautiful. This is really interesting, actually. Is it? Maybe it's interesting to me, but look at this beautiful illustration, right? The reason that so this is really interesting to me. You can see here that we have the peacock, and then this is Juno, who is the Roman counterpart for Hera in Greek mythology, which is Zeus's wife, and Juno is Jupiter's wife. Jupiter is Zeus. You get it. And I think in Roman mythology, there's a different reason that the peacock is the sacred bird of Juno, but in Greek mythology, the reason that the peacock is a sacred bird of Hera is that she had like a watchman, like a royal servant called Argus, who had 100 eyes and would look over her and protect her. But Argus was killed by, I think, Argus was killed by Hermes. At Zeus's request, because Zeus is we don't like Zeus. And to, pay homage to him, she had each of his eyes put into the tail of the peacock to be like it was to say thank you to Argus for all of his hard work and loyalty. But anyway, I digress. So we have the peacock's complaint here. But isn't that beautiful? Anyway. The peacock complained to Juno that while everyone laughed at his voice, an insignificant creature like the nightingale had a note that delighted all listeners. Juno, angry at the unreasonableness of her favourite bird, scolded him in the following terms: "Envious bird that you are, I am sure you have no cause to complain. On whose head was fast becoming white, had two, one a little older than himself, and one much younger. The young wife, being of a gay and lively turn, did not want people to think that she had an old man for a husband, and so used to pull out as many of his white hairs as she could. The old wife, on the other hand, did not wish to seem older than her husband, and so used to pull out the black hairs. This went on until between them both they made the poor man quite bold. No man can belong to two parties at once. I'd argue to say that the moral of that story is don't pull out other people's hair. But you know, we are in a country where you can have two wives in this story, so I also think you can't call a man bold anymore because that's sexual harassment, so that's outdated. That story's outdated. Anyway, not to get political. Thank you so much for reading with me until this point. Sorry about my doggy. And I will carry on reading this again. If you liked it, you let